So today we're going to be doing the teardown of the Barrett Fieldcraft by EMG, made by APS, and I'm going to show you all the parts we need to take it apart. So you need a Phillips head screwdriver. I recommend something with a relatively small head so you can kind of get into places. A 2mm hex key, a 3mm hex key, and a 4mm hex key. And that's really it. It's a super nice gun. It's really easy to take apart, which is nice. First thing you're going to need is a 3mm Allen key. And you're going to take off the screw at the front, just in front of the magwell. These are pretty long screws, by the way. So this one's slightly shorter than the other two. This is the one that's just behind the magwell. And then you're going to want to take off the one in front of the trigger guard. Now, one of these two isn't required for the teardown. I believe it is this one, but we're going to take it out just for peace of mind. And so it's a little stubby thing. It's still a 3mm hex screw, though. Then we're going to switch to the 4mm hex screw. This one goes to the back of the receiver, just behind the trigger guard. And we're going to undo that one, which when you do that, the whole entire receiver is going to start moving. Or sorry, not receiver, but stock. When you unscrew this one, the whole entire stock is going to start moving. So just be aware of that. And the trigger guard will come out with this one because we took out the other retaining screw for the trigger guard. And this is the rear screw, so it is a non-domed. So I'll show you that. So this is the one that was just behind the magwell. They look very similar thread-wise, although this one has a blank section of thread. But the difference is that this one's a domed head and this one is a cylinder head. And then, of course, the trigger guard, which is plastic on this gun. Next thing you can do is just lift the receiver straight off. There's not much to worry about at this point, except for this one nut that likes to come out. This is the back section of the trigger guard. Just make sure you know where it goes. You can either set it back inside. Mine doesn't fit very snugly, so I'll just leave it in the bin. Now we're gonna set the stock off to the side. This is mostly VSR 10 compatible, but you gotta watch out for the taper on the barrel, as not all VSR 10s are tapered. So just be aware of that if you wanted to swap the stock onto another VSR 10. Now for the barrel and trigger assembly. Now we could do this like you would do on an SSG, where you remove the entire trigger group, but in this one's case, all we need to do is take a small Allen key, put it through a little tiny hole right here, and then just lift straight up using the Allen key as a handle. That little piece comes right out, and then just lift the bolt arm up and slide the entire bolt assembly out. This is one thing I really love about this. I know other VSR 10s do this, but with my experience being mostly with this VSR 10, this VSR 10, a VSR 10 clone from Crossman, and the SSG, this is an awesome feature that I absolutely love. So the piston, as per most VSR 10s, has a brass nozzle, steel receiver, or steel casing, I guess, and then the handle. As for taking off the nozzle, they do make tools to allow you to do this pretty easily. However, what I have found is you take two Allen keys and you just kind of turn a little bit. Once you get past that first part, you can usually just don't torque it against the nozzle when you're first loosening it, because you will probably break something. Very heavy nozzle, by the way. This is quite heavy. It's definitely solid brass. It is for sure. This is for sure brass, by the way. So this is the interesting part. We have a polymer piston, which I've mentioned a couple times, but it has a steel backplate for the actual sear, which appears to help in reliability. Yeah, so there is some wear on it there, not a ton. Then we get to the piston, or the piston. We get to the spring guide for the piston. Was a little disappointed with this one when I got it. It doesn't have a ball bearing, which at a price range that this rifle is, it really should. It doesn't seem to affect performance that much, but this would definitely be one thing to like upgrade very soon. It does have a floating point at the rear, though, to simulate a ball bearing. So because of this, it's going to spin the entire spring guide, which solves the issue that the bearing fixes, but isn't the way you should have fixed it. It should be fixed with a ball bearing. All you've got left are the pins that hold the back of the bolt in. I'm not going to be taking those out because I don't want to have to put them back in. So, but that's the bolt for the Barrett. Overall, it's been holding up very well. I'm a little disappointed in some of the choices that were made design-wise. To reassemble it, it's pretty easy. You can just kind of hand tighten the nozzle back in, or the piston, or the cylinder head, or whatever you want to call it. It's all one piece in this case. You can just hand tighten it in and then take the wrench and just, whoops, don't do that. And just kind of firmly fit it back in place. It doesn't have to be wrenched down. So next up is we're going to take off the fire control group, trigger set, whatever you want to call it. I don't have the right Allen key out here, but I did bring my multi-tool set out. So these are 2mm hex screws. They are dome heads. Now in normal cleaning, maintenance, or whatever, honestly, you never have to take these off. And that's not even like an exaggeration. That's not me being nice to it. You legitimately should never have to take these off. So the back screw back here is kind of a pain in the butt to get back in. I don't know if you guys can see it. So I'm not going to take that one out. In fact, I'm going to do my best not to let it fall out either. But I mentioned in the review they had this kind of ball bearing design for the trigger. So you can see in there, you can see the ball bearing on the trigger. So the way it works is the ball bearing is blocking that slide, but as you pull it back, did I put the safety on by accident? I did. As you pull it back, it releases, and so that's what gives it its zero triggers. You're literally pushing a ball bearing against a flat surface. And so the more pressure you have on the surface, the actual softer it feels, and the easier it is to pull. It's kind of a brilliant solution. I'm sure another company has come up with this before, but it is a very, very elegant solution to a problem. Again, I'm not going to take this apart any further than this because I genuinely don't want to have to put it back together. That's my reasoning. I feel like it's a good reasoning. Let's move on to the hop-up. So the hop-up has this nice little doodad here. I can zoom in at this point, I guess. Yeah, so now we're going to work on the hop-up. So it has this nice little doodad here. It's actually the barrel mount for the body. You're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver. So next we're going to remove the arm. I did make a mistake when I was reviewing this, and I said there was no notches. This does in fact have notches. The spring-loaded system doesn't work very well. Now to actually get the hop-up out, we have to take the receiver off, and that requires removing this screw back here. This holds the outer barrel to the receiver, and then this all just kind of unscrews. Now while I have this as an easy spot to show you guys, I want to show you the engraving on here, which the camera's gonna have a hard time focusing on. It does feel very nice, and it does have licensing numbers as well. Now the barrel, to give them credit, does have an O-ring back here, so it does help with the firm fit on the receiver, which is an advantage over some companies that don't include that. Oh. Next is to take this guy out, which requires some persuasion. Did I miss a screw? No, I didn't. Okay guys, brief intermission there because this was really hard in there and I pulled back on it and I got bit by this right there, that little section right there, or well, this section right here. And it really hurt, and I'm bleeding now, but I got a band-aid on it, we're all good. Don't do what I did, press on that with a tool, don't press on it with your finger. So, now you're gonna take the barrel out. It does have two different sized centering doohickeys. So, for the hop-up, you've got a few Phillips head screws to take off. We're going to start with the hop-up arm itself. So, you've got a Phillips head here, here, and here. These are all, if my memory serves me right, self-tapping screws. And then, oh, I take that back, nope. So the ones actually on the hop-up are machine screws, if I can find the camera, there we go. It looks like M2s. So I'll throw that in the hop-up screw bin. And then the ones going in the plastic are self-taps. Pretty much all the self-taps are the same, by the way. I don't think I found a single one last time I tore this apart that was different. And then you're just going to drop this little piece off. Next, we're going to take off the hop-up. So we're going to that screw. This says 2-piece hop-up, so once you take these guys out, it will just split apart. And these, once again, are M2.5s. Okay, make sure there's no other screws, and then boom, it just lifts right off. So here's one side. This is the side that has the notches in it, so I'll show you guys those notches again. As I said, from my experience, they didn't really work. I did misspeak before when I was talking about this, so this is an AEG barrel, just so you guys know. But I said it had extra space for the bucking, and I was actually wrong. It's the same size as a normal VSR 10 bucking or gas blowback bucking, so it'll take a maple leaf no problem, which is my plan. I said AEG barrel, it's got the little lip on the back. Okay, so first step in reassembling the hop-up is going to be putting the bucking back on the barrel, and so for that you just want to line up the nub inside the bucking with the notch on the barrel as per normal, or window on the barrel is what it's usually referred to as. Next step is going to be taking the side of the hop-up that everything attaches to, because this side nothing attaches to. But keep note of the notch here, because that is going to be important later. And so step one is going to be putting this little arm right here into its slot, just like that. Then you're going to put the actual hop-up arm into its little guide. It's got a little nub in there. And then this, which is part of the whole hop-up arm lever adjustment system, just lines up right there. Next thing we're going to do is put the bucking in, and one side has like a little notch nub thing that needs to point straight up. And there's actually a flat line point right here to line up the bucking with, or not the bucking, but the barrel with. So that does make that part a little bit easier. So just set that inside, and then we're going to take the other half of the hop-up and just set it right on top. You might have to push down the little spring-loaded bit that I installed here. Once you get that all lined up, you're going to take the 2.5 mil screws. You have 2 of them. One goes in the back here, just like that, and one goes in the front here, just like that. And you're just going to simply screw those together. Then you're going to take the actual other side of the arm adjustment, which is this plastic bit here, and it slides over the little screw mount there and then into the hop-up arm. There's a little guide rail so it can slide back and forth. And you're going to want the other half to slide all the way forward. So notice that it is clicking at the moment. Then you want the 2 self-tapping screws that holds those 2 plastic bits together. Don't overly tighten these as they are going into plastic, so it's not going to last forever. And now notice it no longer clicks. So I mentioned that it doesn't click in my review, and the reason for that is the plastic parts are not made to a good enough tolerance to keep this in the right position. The minute you screw it together, this wants to leverage up, which means it no longer clicks. So the only time it'll click is if you push down on it. It's not the end of the world, as said before. It holds the setting, but it is just disappointing to see that a feature that was designed to work, like someone put effort into trying to make it work, but didn't put enough effort to actually make it work. And so that is disappointing to see. Don't forget the 2mm screw. It goes right in this little hole, and that holds the hop-up adjustment arm into place. Okay, then you slide this all the way in until the threads are showing through the hole here, just like that. So hopefully you guys can see the threads on the other side. Now that you've got the hop-up in the barrel, you're going to take hop-up adjuster, and if the barrel is pointing to your left, the adjustment is going to go facing away from you, so the arm should be on this side. And then you're just going to screw that down just like that. Now you're going to put the barrel mount on, which has a longer and shorter side. The longer side will actually fit into 2 notches on the hop up, and the shorter side will line up with this screw hole right here. And you just kind of set it right on top and screw in the 2 Phillips screws that are in there. And big bada boom, it's all mounted up. Okay, now that we've got this taken care of, we're going to put the whole barrel assembly back onto the receiver. And that is as simple as, one, making sure that your Delrin spacers that hold the cylinder, which is this guy right here, aren't falling out. And this is just standard clockwise threading. And there's a little notch on the barrel itself that lines up with a hole back here. You're just going to make sure that you have that lined up just right. Then you're going to take the only M3 screw, drop it into that hole, and screw it down with a Phillips head screwdriver. Okay, after you get the outer barrel onto the receiver, next step is getting the piston back in, which is pretty simple. You just slide it in from the back. Then you're just going to set the trigger group on top of here. You've got the screw for the front, which just goes right on. As for the one I recommended leaving in, it's still back there. It's a really short 2mm screw. And once you get this one relatively snug, you go ahead and tighten the other one down. You don't need to wrench either of these down, but they do need to be snug. And then that should push all the way down and in, which means you should be able to cock the gun and fire. And again, so just as demonstration of how light that trigger is. But yeah, now you've got the main assembly done, and all that's left is putting it back into the body. Now, as we made note earlier, this screw and this nut came out. We don't have to take these parts out, but for the full teardown, I did. This nut goes in the little hex screw there, or hex hole there, so it just sits right in. It is not glued in place from the factory. You can glue it in if you want. It's not going to affect anything. And then you're going to set the trigger guard just inside of there. Then you can put that screw in, and with the 3mm Allen key, just tighten it down. And just to note again, during disassembly, you never actually have to take that out unless you want to switch out your trigger guard for one that is metal. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take the barrel and lay it upside down on the mat, and you're going to set the you're going to set the body just right into the receiver. And then I recommend putting in the short screw first. The short screw, the dome head, goes right in front of the mag release here. If the mag release falls out while you're working on it, it's pretty easy to put it back in. Just make sure you don't lose the spring. You're just going to want to line up that screw with the receiver. You may have to slide the stock back and forth to get it to line up. But don't tighten it down just yet, just kind of get it a loose fit. Then we're going to take the long dome-headed screw. That one goes just behind the mag well, right here. And once again, don't tighten it down all the way, but get it most of the way. And then the last one, which is the large 4mm screw. This one has the short section that's not threaded. Goes in the back behind the trigger guard. Right. And then once that's in, you can snug that one down from the beginning. Just kind of take them and spin them till they stop. They don't need to be under a ton of force, but you do want these pretty snug. So there you guys go. There's the full teardown. If you're interested in this one, I'll probably be doing a shorts video for removing this. It's a 1mm, or yeah, it's a 1mm set screw, and this unscrews, and you can put the other piece, which is a thread adapter, on the end. So I'll probably be doing a shorts on that. I'm supposed to get that later today. Other than that, like, subscribe, tell me how you feel. If you need any more information on this, if you want some more measurements from the parts, let me know, and I can get those for you pretty easily. Other than that, you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.